Connecting. And I believe we are live. So welcome. And I didn't even get to, is it Tim? Like, I don't
Yeah, it's Tim. You can call me TM, you can call me Tim, you can call me T Muggsy, whatever you prefer, but yeah.
Okay, sweet. So this was, you know, I love doing these kinds of things because live. Welcome. There we go. So I love doing this live because I don't know you. You probably know me, maybe for my content, maybe not. I don't know. But I love having these one-on-ones with guild leaders, with GMs specifically, because I like getting to know the mindset of the person in charge of the organization, right? I mean, I think with Ashes of Creation, there's a lot to unpack in this game comparatively to a game like WoW, where a GM is basically just orchestrating raid nights and dealing with trinket drama and who's going to get the weapon kind of thing. And you're not saying that's probably not going to happen in this game either, but I think it's just there's a more defined strategy and organization that I think Ashes is going to take comparatively to a lot of the other MMOs. So Tim, I just want to ask, because usually in these 1v1s, we don't start the episode immediately. We like to get people to trickle in. Do you want to just introduce yourself and like your MMO experience, what MMOs you've come from, like why you're interested in Ashes and all that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So name is Tim, TM, or T Muggsy. You can call me whatever you want. I started off in WoW. I started my guild leading experience around 2017, 2018 on private servers. Been playing classic WoW like religiously for, almost a decade at this point. We recently made the move over from Cataclysm to Ashes, and that's just purely because we enjoy the world PvP aspects way more, and just the overall arcing like systems and generally everything that goes to Ashes, from the mayor stuff to the interactions, the politics, all this stuff. That's really like the reason I got into classic was because you get a lot of that in vanilla. It's probably the thing that drew me in when I started playing on private servers was, I played a ton of WoW my whole life, and when you play classic WoW, you're like, holy shit, like I really enjoy the interactions with other players. Like when you're doing world bosses, or you're going through and getting world buffs or whatever, just meeting people generally, getting reputations, interacting, the drama, everything that goes along with it.
Oh, the drama.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, so I guess without getting too much into it yet, there's been, I think, a lot of people, especially in the virus server, that know of Polar. Of course, there's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of infamous guilds right now, right? So I'm in Axiom. We're a pretty big guild, but I think there's a lot of big guilds on this server. And you don't have to get too much into it, but like, how do you feel about being on the virus server?
We played the phase 1 a little bit, and I think Vira comparatively to me is more like definitely more fun, more interesting. I like the server dynamic more. The one thing I dislike, which we're going to probably talk about a bunch at some point in this conversation, is the witch hunting stuff. That stuff I don't really enjoy.
Okay.
I think there's a big issue of mixture of like gameplay and game style on Vira. Like on Resna, this wasn't really an issue. Everyone was kind of like, yo, we're playing to the meta, we're hardcore, we're cutthroat. On Vira, it's like, I mean, you could kill someone's caravan and they'll tell you that you're exploiting or something. It's just a complete different mixture of attitude and gameplay and just game style in general. Like you expect on Resna, you expect people to play to whatever the meta possibly is. Like if there's a fast way to get gear, they're gonna do it, and you don't expect anything else. Like that general gameplay style, like it's just completely different. There's like you played WoW. There's RP servers in WoW.
Right.
A lot of people won't play on those servers because, or people do play on those servers specifically to play in an environment that's more stylized for them, maybe a little more slow paced, enjoyable, whatever. And then there's like the streamer servers, they call them, where it's just like balls to the wall, gas, do what you gotta do. And people kind of expect those environments. Right. When we came into Vira, that's kind of how we feel about gaming. We're just like, if there's a meta, we're gonna find it, we're gonna play to it. As long as it's within the TOS, we're gonna do it. And we feel like there's a big mixture of expectations on Vira. That alone was just like a bit jarring. And it's like really specific to the Ashes community. Like it's very like wholesome. which it's not like that's not WoW at all, you know. And we're a WoW guild. That's where we come from. It's a completely different, you know, different play styles.
So it's interesting you mentioned the Resna thing, right? And my thing is that when it comes to being hardcore, because you mentioned, you know, being hardcore, and I think when you're competing against other guilds, there's almost an underlining, not needing to be said, but an all but necessary, like everything's on the table. And I think it's because you said without breaking TOS, but I think there's a lot of guilds, competitive ones, hardcore ones, that were. And if they're doing it and we're not, we will get left behind. We will be like overpowered by what they're doing. And I guess like in my view, or not in my view, but like in your view, what is your stance as the GM when it comes to TOS breaking? Or because right now there was this big push, right, that Steven just did this past Friday with the announcing of all the stuff. Like what is your stance to your members about breaking TOS and, you know, doing exploiting or anything like that?
Okay, so how we feel about it is, I mean, first off, just generalized TOS from Intrepid and communication on what is and what isn't allowed is super like
vague.
That's a massive issue right now.
Right.
And,
vague.
Very vague and very just random, right? Like, I wish we could get a really clear cut answer on this, because our stance on it is we're going to stay within TOS always. Like if it's against TOS, we're not going to do it. We're not going to hack or anything like that. Like we don't, you know, we're here to play the game. We're here to stay. No one's trying to get banned in Polar, right? So, you know, we're never going to break that line. So like some stuff like duping we'll never ever do. Because we did like in P1 when we first played this game, you know, the whole duping thing that happened.
Right.
Same shit. You know, we were like, oh, there's a dupe out. I guess everyone's doing it, so I guess we'll do it too. You know, people got their characters reset. Yeah, never doing that again. Didn't know that they were going to ban for that or anything like that. So it was like, instantly don't do that.
Okay.
When it comes to what we're going to do, I think like there's a big issue on like mob pathing. I know there's this whole drama about like people in Carfin and stuff, which Polar didn't do at all. It's not even the most XP per hour. So I think it's funny that people get so hung up over that. We didn't do that at all, but would I do that? I don't know. Maybe not. Only reason I wouldn't do it is because people would complain about it. Do I think that mob pathing issues is exploiting or clever gameplay? I would say clever gameplay. It's kind of how WoW treats it. I had this conversation with people today in the what's it called, in the Ashes Discord. I mean, I was in the level 70 race in TBC, and we were racing there, and every mage that won that race, they were just all mob pathing. They would hop on a ledge, hop off a ledge, hop on a ledge, hop off a ledge. It just comes from a different environment. Like if Intrepid makes a clear stance that, hey, you know, generalized mob AI issues or mob pathing, totally TOS, you're getting rolled back for that, no one in our guild will ever do it. But I think the issue, and probably the issue for most guilds, is there's no clear cut response or answer, or like, hey, here, look, this is where it says in TOS, you can't do that. Right. But yeah, so our general thing is, if it's going to get you banned, don't do it. If it's going to get you rolled back, don't do it. So we just don't do it.
So did what happened in phase 1? This is something that I'm very curious about. Did that scare anybody in your guild? Did that put any fear in potentially, like, not just getting your character rolled back, but being suspended for a whole phase, or being permanently just banned by doing stuff? Is there any kind of fear that you or any of your guild members have gotten by what Steven and Intrepid have been doing?
I wouldn't call it fear. I mean, it's not like, okay, so like the duping thing in phase 1, right? Like, we're only like 15 players in phase 1. You were on Resna. Were you on Resna in Axiom?
Okay. I was actually, so Axiom was on Resna. Yeah, but I was actually playing on Vira with the other content creators. So
Axiom was on Resna, and I think Axiom knows full well too. Like, everyone, when that duping thing happened, none of us paid attention to the Discord. None of us, we were just playing Ashes, like, you know, generally casually. And then the duping thing was like blown. I don't know how it was on Vera, but it was everywhere on Resna. Yeah. And it became a thing where you saw everyone in Eben Omens, and I'm like, oh, we're idiots. I guess we have to dupe too. So everyone did that, and then everyone got their counts rolled back, and then Resna was a ghost town. Legitimately, it was like
everyone went to Vyra to make a.
Oh yeah, literally, it was like 100 players left in Resna, and then for us, it was like, oh, okay, well, clearly there's a line drawn here. This isn't like a free alpha where you can just do whatever you want. Because like Resna wasn't really super organized like Varia is now either. It wasn't like we were playing as much as a real game. Like this feels like a real game we're playing right now. Resna before was kind of like mishmashy. So like I wouldn't say.
In what way? I'm sorry. I just want to ask you, in what way was it mishmashy?
It was just like, I mean, the game was so buggy at the time, and it's like, very true, I don't know. P1 was so like, I mean, we come from WoW, right? We're playing a standardized game. We were also playing WoW consistently through that phase, so we were just hopping on Ashes in our free time.
Gotcha.
So it was just kind of just felt like, and we weren't even playing in Polar. We were playing in EPH at the time. We were literally playing with EPH with Alec and them.
Right.
So it was kind of like we log on, we'll have fun, we'll level, bullshit around, whatever. And then that whole dupe thing happened, and it was like, okay, we'll wait for P2, and we're gonna probably port over our guild. But like, it just didn't feel. It just felt like an alpha. Like I don't generalize. Like this doesn't feel like an alpha right now in Vera. Does that make sense or no?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely level with you as far as like because phase 1 was rough around the edges in a lot of parts.
Yeah, it just like. So like when the whole duping thing happened, it was like funny. It was almost like a New World. When did you play New World or no?
No, but I saw all the videos, so I know.
Yeah, it was like it just felt like we were playing this. We're playing a legitimate alpha. Like who cares? Like your character gets deleted, gets whatever. It doesn't matter. Now you said, does that bring fear to players in my guild? Blah blah. I wouldn't say fear, but we don't get banned in any game, so it's like we don't want to be banned. We don't want to be rolled back. So I guess there is a fear definitely of being rolled back or banned. Mm-hmm. Like generally, I don't think people in Polar would risk their accounts at all.
Right. Because there's. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
I was going to say there is definitely an attitude of, yeah, I'm not going to even do that, even out of the risk of someone thinking that's an exploit. I'm not trying to deal with that bullshit.
Right.
Like there's I guess you could call it a fear for sure.
Yeah. My thing is that when I saw a lot of people believe that what happened on Friday with Steven, and I think there's even going to be some more people that are going to be taken care of tomorrow per Margaret. I saw someone shared a message from Margaret saying that there was going to be some actions by the 21st. And my fear really was that exploiters were just going to kind of scoff at that and be like, huh, well, we're just going to continue to do what we do. And I level with you. I actually do, because this is what I was kind of complaining about a little bit, is there isn't any delineation on what is an exploit and what isn't. Like if we're going to draw the line of, NPC pathing or, height exploitation or riding a crocodile mount on land, like where, like, because I think gamers are always going to push the boundaries, right? We're going to see where is the cliff, so to speak, right? And sometimes we think we're, still walking on land, but we're actually Wile E. Coyote just hovering in the air, and then we just fall to the ground. You know what I mean? And I think for me as a player, I just want, hey, don't do this. This is, like you said, this is against TOS. This is something we do not accept. We do not want players to do. Because honestly, the way Steven and Margaret talked about this alpha when they were giving the roadmap is they want this alpha to bring natural data to their devs, right? And to us, like to play this alpha like if we were truly playing the launch of Ashes of Creation as much as possible. And I'm not saying that exploiting and duping, is not something we should do or something we shouldn't discover. Absolutely. But it's the repeated, like, the exacerbation of duping or the exacerbation of exploiting, because that data, I mean, yes, they can get it to see how is it exploited, what's going on or whatever, but it's that advantage. And I think a lot of people are playing this alpha to a very hardcore degree. It's not just Polar. We have many guilds on Vyra right now. We have Envious, we got you guys, we got Dopamine, we got Barcode, we got, Axiom. We're all playing at very high levels of organization, trying to play with skill. We're also trying to, at least with Axiom, we're trying to be very diplomatic and talking to other mayors or other GMs and see like where alliances lie, where these things are. And I think it's been interesting to say the least, because Vyra on phase 1, at least for us, was fucking awesome. And then the horror stories I heard on Resna, I was like, thank God I didn't roll with Axiom in phase 1, because phase 1 to me was amazing. Like, even though there was a lot of growing pains, even though there was a lot of like things in the game that were still being kinked out, I thought I had a really great experience. And it was kind of a PvE Care Bear. I'm not going to lie. Like Resna or Elvira felt very much like there was PvP happening, but it was, hey, like we're going to organize a scrum between this guild and this guild. Let's go and do it, right? Like no one was really like knocking over caravans or doing any of that stuff, right?
Okay. Yeah, on Resna, complete opposite. There was a point where Polar had 14 wars permanently decked on them because the bug in P1 where the war never closed out.
Wars, yes.
Yeah, so we had it was a clown fiesta over there to say the least. But to make on your point though about the exploiting thing, I totally understand, and believe me, that point is you feel that so much more in a hardcore guild because you're racing for real, like you're racing for land, you're racing for these materials, mayorships, or these world bosses or whatever. So when people are duping or exploiting, as a guild, you have to make a hard decision because it's like, well, is Intrepid going to deal with this, or are we going to have to do this to maintain the same pathway? Because every hardcore guild is going towards the meta, and if there are like exploits that become meta, a hardcore guild, let's say to themselves, are we going to do this, or are we going to put ourselves at a disadvantage? Right. And that doesn't feel really good. And I totally understand that. I would say for what we do in Polar, at least on that stance, is if it's going to get you banned, don't do it. I mean, we have a hard stance,
because you don't
definitely. The risk is too much. The risk is too much.
And I think from what I've heard, you guys are trying to get very hardcore, like very specific niched people. Is that correct?
Yeah. No. Well, kind of. We're actually pretty split. We have a super hardcore side, and then we're actually trying to build out more of our casual side. We have too many hardcore people. We're currently trying to build out a more casual. Yeah, right. We want to build out more of a gathering core and like a crafting side.
Okay.
Our PvP side's pretty stacked, and it's only going to grow for us with more WoW people coming over and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's kind of where we are in Polar right now. Like our big thing is world bosses. We love world bosses, so we're doing that every single day. It's usually us, Envious, Nova, Amnesty, just battling out. We've had world bosses where there's been 1,000+ kills. It's been absolutely crazy, and we absolutely love that kind of content. We really enjoy actually the mayorship stuff too. Like building out Marilith has been really, really fun. We're about to finish Marilith completely. We finished the metalworking T3, and we're about to be done with the weaving T3, and we really actually enjoyed that process. It's kind of like playing an RTS.
Right. Well, because Tim, aren't you the mayor of Marilith, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, I'm the mayor of Marilith. Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm not the mayor of Winstead. That's Angel. But I'm just curious from your point of view, what happened with the mayor negotiations or the mayor diplomacy between the 5 mayors of Vira? Because I feel like we should have been more progressed than where we currently are on the server. And so I'm just curious, at least from your standpoint, like what happened?
Well, first off, guilds are going to prioritize leveling their crafters is number one.
Right.
So resources are not going to go to buy orders like they were in P1, because I think in P1 people were like, well, it doesn't really matter. Like we can use crafters from other guilds, or crafting, like having our crafters, is important, but like we really want to work in the node together and we're all like unified. Here's everyone's obviously trying to build their guilds first, so crafting comes first. So all the zinc and stuff that you would use for buy orders are going to go to your crafters first. There's way more people in Vira too. We saw that massive resource shortages early on. It was a, for some of these buildings you need so much zinc or copper, and it's so rare for some reason. That is a huge bottleneck. It's really difficult. Like right now it's 1,200 standard tools to do a T3 upgrade, and that ends up being, if you do it with ingots, ends up being like 4,000 zinc ingots, and I think like 7,000 basalt fragments on top of 3 other buy orders, like either whatever you're doing. For us right now it's books and something else. Right. The amount you have to gather is incredibly huge, and then having citizens participate in that is also difficult. The mayors talk. We talk constantly, and we update each other on what we're doing. But there is definitely like, we respect each other for sure. I talk to Angel. I talk to other mayors all the time. But people are also going to do what's best for their guild and their node. Like I can give you an example, like the people that run Joeva, for example, they built a smithy, I think, and 2 other crafting buildings and 1 support building. That doesn't really equal up into multiple tier 3s because you need 2 support buildings per per crafting building.
Right. That's what I was hearing too. Yeah.
Yeah, and he knew that in the beginning. His citizens early on were like, "Hey, we're gonna vote you out unless you put up these buildings." And he was like, "Listen, I want to hold my city. I'm gonna kind of do what they need us to do." So like, the mayors are gonna have to make decisions that help them hold on to their mayorship. That's not the best for the T3 pathway, because generally people don't super understand it. Like, I'm sure Angel deals with this and other mayors. I have people who reach out to me who just have zero clue of how this works at all. But they'll talk to me as if we're doing a terrible job, or we have no idea what we're doing.
Right. And so again, because I'm not a mayor, I don't know any of the behind the scenes. What do you feel are the biggest growing pains as a mayor? Like, what do you feel are the things that you like about the system, you like about the organization or building of nodes? What are, just like pain points basically?
Pain points of it?
Yeah.
I would say the benefits from turning in buy orders. There's the buy order turns, or you buy your cloak for like 200 tickets or something, which is very few buy orders. And after that, nothing really else. We actually did a node war really early on, which I'm mad at myself for doing this. That ended up giving everyone in my node 2,000 tickets. So no one basically does buy orders, because why would they? There's no reason for them to do it. That was super early on. We didn't know that was going to be the way it was. Right. But we because node war didn't work in P1. So I was like, cool, I have a node war. Let's send it. It's going to be exciting. Let's test this. We did it. And then it sent everybody a reward in the entire node. They all got 2,000 tickets. They all got like 20% of a level, and then like a random package of like pots and stuff. We only did one during that time, but that kind of griefed us pretty badly, because it ended up just being Polar only working on Merilith. Yeah. I think the pain point there is the rewards, for sure, for doing buy orders.
Rewards. And do you feel like the other pain point is the contribution of materials, or do you feel like materials is okay?
What do you mean by it's like, you mean like
to build buildings and to be able to, like you were talking about copper and zinc?
Well, that's the reward issue I'm talking about. Like, those contributions are done through buy orders. People get rewards from the buy orders, but the rewards suck, so no one wants to do them. Like, that's an issue. Like, if you made the rewards more significant, a little bit, sorry. Yeah, that's fine. If you made the rewards more significant, or gold based, or anything else, I mean, there's obviously an issue of like tuning rewards in Ashes right now, which is completely fine. Like, they're early on, but if they could fix those rewards a little bit more, you would see these towns get built a lot faster. Right,
because because I think there's a lot of people who want, like, especially when we're a novice and we're trying to make apprentice stuff, whether it's like lumberjacking, mining, or herbing, or whatever the case is. Like, people want to go up into the next tier, but if the buy orders aren't really satisfying, and to me, I think they actually should be satisfying, because you're not going to be building buildings all the time, right? So there's a very finite window of when certain buildings are going to get built. So if you want to take advantage of that as a player, you should be rewarded for doing so, especially if the buy orders are you're giving materials that are very like rare, so to speak, which I have a kind of an issue with too, because T1 materials, Stephen always talked about the kind of progression. Like, T1 we're going to be very common all over the place, not really
not common at all.
Yeah, and then you have T2 that's gonna be a little bit more uncommon, a little bit more harder to find, and then as the tiers go up, it's gonna be just more rare and rare and rare. And I was like, oh, okay. And then so when I saw copper being in T1, I'm like, this feels like a T2 material.
It feels like a T3 sometimes. At least early on the server, it was T3.
Yeah, absolutely.
You couldn't find copper anywhere.
So I don't know what exactly their plan is when it comes to that, because I feel like if it was like if copper and zinc were plentiful and everybody was able to make their stuff and everybody was able to get their like, because in my opinion, especially for level 10 stuff, like, who cares, right? Like, it's like, if you compare it to any other MMO, is someone going to be upset that the fact that they got really good level 10 gear? Well, I think probably not, because in most other MMOs, you're going to level so far and so fast anyway that it doesn't even matter. I understand in Ashes that level 10 does feel more like a little bit of a milestone, because going from 10 to 20 is going to take you probably a bit of time. I'm talking as far as like an average person. Hardcore, probably not. But it's like, who cares, right? If the T1 materials are plentiful and people are getting decked out in uncommon greens or rares, it's like, who, like, I just don't care. Like, it's not a big deal to me at all. I totally agree. I think
Totally agree.
the biggest deal, this is something I made a whole video about, is the rarity. What I find to be very unrewarding as a player is the fact that when I'm a herbalist, I don't feel any different from level 9 herbing to level 26. I feel, because I'm still, I can still have a legendary proc at level 8, and I can still have another legendary proc at level 26. So it's like I feel like the rarity should actually be gated per certification, and that'll actually alleviate a huge burden off of guilds, because if they know the highest rarity that they could get is, like, let's say heroic, and they don't have to worry about epic or legendary, then that's the focus, right? And that's way more obtainable, and it doesn't cause a lot of stress to these hardcore guilds, because they know that's the bottleneck, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, is kind of a thing too that would feel good in knowing that as a novice, if I'm herbing, I can only get common, uncommon, and maybe a small chance at a rare. And that's it. And if I go to apprentice, then now I can get a little bit more rare, and now I have a very small chance to earn a heroic. You know what I mean? And then same thing.
I actually like that a lot too, because I feel like that would it would elongate those tier 1 like mats too. So like say
Right.
when you're in that level 10 range, you can only get blue. Then when you get higher level, it still makes you want to go out and get, copper or whatever zinc. It still makes it valuable, because then you can make these these super high rated, but like maybe level 10 items, and it's still value. That's actually a good idea.
Well, go ahead.
Can I just get to one point real quick?
Sure.
Talking about the turn-ins for zinc, copper, and stuff like that, the biggest issue I find is, why would a player turn in zinc on a buy order in a town when they could turn around and sell it for like, they can sell a stack for like 30 silver or 40 silver, and they get nothing by doing it. There needs to be an equivalence of value, at least equivalence of value, or no one's ever going to do buy orders. And you're just putting it all in these guilds to do it, who just want the towns for, we do it for the fun and the flying amount, obviously. We enjoy the process. But like in the future of this game, these things will not get done. And when you're talking about 80 nodes won't get progressed unless there's a equivalent value to the resources in the market, or a greater than value, because that needs to change for sure.
Right. So I kind of want to shift a little bit to caravans. So caravans to me are, I think, one of the biggest systems that is going to be in Ashes of Creation. And I truly want this system to not only work, but to be like a fun activity for both sides. So I guess for you, I just want to ask like your opinion as to like, how do you feel about caravans? Do you like this system, especially coming from World of Warcraft? Because I'm a World of Warcraft player myself. Like, what are your just thoughts, desires, wants, pain points, just kind of in general about caravans? Because I think that's going to be a huge thing. Intrepid's probably going to get feedback from us, like the whole player base, pretty soon.
So P1 caravans to me were pretty irrelevant. Didn't really care about them. P2 caravans, making gold and stuff, because we were really progressing gear. A huge part of the gameplay for us. I absolutely love the caravan events. I can give you an example where we were running caravans early on in the server from Merilith to Nuela, and we have a bit of a rivalry with Dopamine, and they had a group, they scouted us, and they brought out like a full 40 men, and we were running like 25 caravans. And this is the first time doing it, so we have people DCing and everything else, and we're running this massive train of caravans, and they catch us by Lionhold, and we're clashing with them, we're regrouping, we're fighting them. I'm flying mount over this massive, we're talking this caravan route's like from halfway Nuela back to Oakenbane, so it's a massive train, right? So we're fighting all over this entire train against them. Feels like we're in Blackhawk Down when they're leaving the town with the Humvees and they're being shot out everywhere.
Yeah,
we had we lost like 3 or 4 caravans in Lionhold. One blew up like right at the bottleneck, and we're fighting there. We have some crazy clips. I'll put out a video about it soon. And it was just a really cool experience. Like we lost a few caravans, but we ended up getting like the rest of them there. But the entire fight the whole way there was insanely fun and an insanely epic moment that like for me was like, okay, this is when it clicked for me. Like this game is gonna be massive. Because that event alone was just so much fucking fun.
Right.
The main issues, obviously, the DCing, the caravans disappearing.
Which I believe they've fixed now, right? Because I could have sworn I saw patches about that.
They've been putting fixes in it. Definitely not fixed yet. There's definitely still issues. People still lose caravans, and that feels super bad. Right. But when they get that down, it'll be insanely fun. I think what they should do, though, I think they need to probably increase the health of caravans, like off the rip, like your lowest level caravan, and also increase the capacity. I think that they need to make commodities tradable, because I think it would be a much more fun experience if, say, our like static or 8-man whatever is running a caravan. Instead of having to run 8 caravans, if we had to run 2, it'd be way more fun, because like 6 of us could be defending, like guiding the caravan or being with it, whatever. I think that everyone having to drive their own caravan situation kind of makes it a little bit makes it more clunky, not as fun, not as enjoyable, because you kind of want those PvP experiences. Like, you want to be pirated by a caravan because it's a fun exchange, right? Like, you're fighting off these pirates while you have 2 guys in there driving them, and you're defending them, you're buffing your caravans, you're doing the whole situation, you're scouting for your caravans. That to me would be a much more fun system. I also think it's a lot of pressure on the servers. Have you been near a massive caravan like trail? You get 3 FPS. Like, clearly it's not doing too well.
Yeah, I mean, the optimization still, of course, definitely needs to be there. Player render distance is a huge issue.
Yeah,
I think their big contention right now is attacking. There's all the reward and no risk for attackers, and all the risk associated with just defending. Because again, you have 25 caravans, you have a lot to lose. But as an attacker, if we lose, if we die, it's like we just keep trying to go. We throw bodies at it again, and if we get bored, we'll just stop. We didn't risk really hardly anything. Like, especially if you're going to be a hardcore person, you're not going to have anything in your inventory to drop, right? You're going to have nothing there. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what kinds of risks should attackers be risking? There's been people that have said, kind of like almost like a pseudo corruption. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I think in my mind, having a 50% chance to possibly lose an equipped piece of gear, not 100%, but
that'd be crazy.
But I mean, because again, it's like, well, think about what you're risking. If you're running 25 caravans, how much gold is that in total?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like, if you're going to get a 40 man of attackers, and you're not really going to risk much of anything.
If I wanted to see a cost, I would want the cost to be not. I think the gear drop just feels so bad. Like, it can feel so bad. I mean, if you lose your gear.
I've heard that many times.
Yeah, I think it should be a value cost, a gold cost. Like, if you want to attack these caravans, there needs to be some equivalent trade, and I don't know how you would do that. There could be maybe some black market thing, like a contract, or like maybe you buy like a bounty paper, and that allows you to click attack around a caravan. That way you can't just freely attack caravans without any cost. That also creates a gold sink as well.
Well, so my whole thing is that with hardcore players, because I've talked about this in a Discord, because people are like, well, what if the attackers, let's say they drop their gold, and their gold, like if they have, let's say 11 gold, like a player has 11 gold, they drop 25% of it as glint. But it's like, well, if that's the case, then hardcore players before they attack are just going to trade their gold, so they have 0 gold to someone else, and they'll go and attack with no gold, because that's, again, they're gonna try to limit, as a gamer, you're going to limit all the risk possible if you're going to go and attack caravans. So it's like, I don't know what kind of a risk you can truly like add to these players. Now, the only thing I can think of is actually an increased durability. So because whenever you die as an attacker, you can actually take more durability damage to your gear that you would actually need to repair, like your repair bills, or maybe even you can actually get broken, like your gear can get broken, not removed or anything like that, but so that way you're not throwing bodies like constantly, right? Like, it's like as an attacker, you maybe have like 3 shots before your gear's done.
I actually like a limited. I was thinking limited time as well too. When you hit attacker, maybe a timer starts that you can attack for only so long. But even the durability thing is actually a good idea, because that makes that's a gold cost, as well as like gear you're just gonna get. You're also losing. You lose gear, it's kind of over for you anyway. Right. Yeah, there probably needs to be more costs associated with attacking. But even if there wasn't, you're still going to do caravans, because, like, I'll give you an example. You run a caravan from, Merila to New Ayla, and you're running one of these new Braidwood caravans. That's like a 30 gold run. Like, that is really efficient. Like, you get like 3 or 4 of those off without being contested. Right. You are doing really nice with your gold right now, right? Like, people are going to run caravans, and even if they lose caravans, they're still going to run them. So I don't even know if you need to make an associated cost. Because like, if you like, this is another thing too. If I see a caravan from, like, I don't know, for Envious, for example, and I say, oh, we should go kill a caravan, then I create all these diplomatic issues, right? I think that when you don't create, these in-game systems as much, you let it be handled by the political systems, which I think Steven wants. Right. We have, neutral things we do with other people. We have people we help with caravans or defend their caravans, or like I'll give you for example for Marilith. You know, we want citizens to not constantly complain, so Polar doesn't really kill Marilith citizens or caravans. So like, you know, we see a caravan and we kill a Marilith caravan, and we have that guy crying in citizen chat for the next day and a half. So there is associated like,
Right.
you know, risk that doesn't have to always be game risk essentially, but political risk, whatever. Some people just want to play pirates. I don't know. I don't know the good balance for that. I do think the system's really good. It definitely needs tuning. But I do think that system is going to be really exciting for new players when they come to Ashes. They've never seen it anywhere else. That's why I tell people who like, they're like, oh, I'm playing WoW, I'm playing Classic again for the 20th time. I say, listen, there's systems in this game that you've never seen in another game. This is, I don't know if you know what Angoro Crater is.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, this is Angoro Crater on steroids.
Yeah.
The politics, the PvP, the in-game risk, it's super, super fun, and it's only gonna, you know, increase. So,
well, I mean, so let's talk about, you know, how Polar is viewed on the server. So, I mean, how is your stance on like how do you want to be like how do you want your guild to be portrayed on the server? Because I think right now, especially if you're a hardcore guild, you know, I was talking to not Alec, but I was talking to Tanner about, you know, his kind of position on, you know, how dopamine is supposed to be perceived on the server. And it's like, well, you know, we're a hardcore guild, and, you know, we like to attack caravans, but it's like a no hard feelings. It's like, hey, you know, GG, it's part of the game. But my thing is that, you know, of course it's part of the game, but especially when you're known for constantly doing that, you're going to develop a reputation for being a certain way. You know, there's sometimes, you know, the diplomatic approach in a game like this is to not do anything or even help, you know, defend. So I'm just curious from your standpoint, like, is Polar, because again, I've heard so many stories, like I've like I said, you guys are pretty infamous on the virus server, but I haven't had any like personal experience, like, you know, when I'm out in the world or whatever, I don't like, whether it's dopamine, whether it's you guys, whether it's like anyone else, like I haven't really had a bad experience with the guild yet. So I'm just curious, like, what is your stance on that?
I guess the way we want to be viewed realistically is probably just, we want to be viewed as, you know, an elite guild that, you know, hardcore guild that tries super hard. Everything we do, PvP, we're going to try the absolute hardest and play to the meta. You know, I don't really fight the PR stuff, but there's been plenty of obviously bad PR for Polar. I kind of let actions speak for themselves. Like, people interact with me, they're going to have a good experience, they could have a bad experience. I'm just going to kind of let it fall to that. I don't really, it's not that I don't care about how people view us, but, you know, there's nothing I can do to really change that other than, you know, just be on the server long enough for people to actually see who we are and how we operate. We're pretty upfront, we're pretty blunt. And we talked about the caravan thing today. Like, I think we were doing Firebrand today. On the way back, we saw 6 dopamine caravans. You know, we landed on top of them, we killed them all. And then we went back to Mira. You know, after that whole event, we don't sit there, we don't shit talk. We weren't spamming them like, hey, you know, whatever. We had a lot of fun PvPing against them. It was a good time. We move on, we go next, you know. That's kind of how we operate. You know, are people going to shit talk from Polar? Are people going to be, you know, a bit immature? For sure, it's going to happen. Like, that's not something I try to control realistically, but it's just kind of how it goes in hardcore guilds. I expect the same thing from dopamine. You know, or not just dopamine, but from barcode, dopamine, Nova, whatever. Like, that's just part of the game. I've been playing these games long enough to know that there's going to be banter, and that's kind of the fun of it too, right? Like, how people see Polar. I mean, hey, if you had a bad experience and it's truly someone did something heinous, DM me. We'll talk about it. I'll get it fixed. You know, I take responsibility for my guild. You know, I think generally we're pretty good people. We're pretty nice in general. We're just a normal gaming community. Community. I just think we're new to Ashes in general. Yeah, and people just have to get used to us, and we'll find our spot in the community. Right. You know, it's already happening. Like, I have, you know, I've built relationships with people from Vira that, you know, maybe had, you know, a bad idea about us beforehand, and they, you know, generally we're pretty good friends now.
I think especially a lot of the people that were on Vira on P1 that are still there in P2 are very much like PvE players, you know, and
Yeah.
I kind of consider myself in that camp too, because, you know, in WoW, I did PvP, I did arena back in Cataclysm, like not classic Cataclysm, I'm talking like actual Cataclysm, like way back when, and I haven't PvP'd in a bit when it comes to WoW, but I feel like, you know, PvP is just very polarizing to people because they take it very personal. Because in a game like this, you know, if you're out gathering or you're doing something and someone just comes out and kills you, you know, you lose shit. You know,
You lose hours. You lose hours.
You lose shit, and you again, it's you take that personally. Like, why did you do this to me? And it's again, some people, it's not a malicious thing. It's just I made a calculated decision to do this. You know what I mean? And I get that. Like, I remember I was telling Tanner the same thing. There was a guy from Dopamine. I was actually out just gathering stuff, and there was a big copper mine that I saw, and I went to it, and then this Dopamine tank came out of nowhere and started to attack me, and I was like, oh shit! I was like, all right, fine, take the freaking copper mine. Like, it's not that worth it to me, you know, if that's what you wanted, fine. And that's what it was. That's all it was. And but I think some people take that like super personal. You know what I mean? And I think again, this is why the whole, and this is, and because you guys have just came in the scene here, this has been something that has been in the Ashes community a lot. Like, I've been in this community now for going on 5 years, and PvE servers, and you know, this game is gonna fail because it has PvP. Like, it's wild. Like, and these were conversations that were happening years ago, and I think a lot of the times people just get very emotionally invested, which is kind of nuts, because I didn't think people would get this emotionally invested, especially hardcore people, on an alpha tune. Like, like they can announce tomorrow that they're going to wipe next week because there was a critical bug that they found and we just got to wipe the servers again. Like, but people would be pissed if that was, you know, the case. But it's just, to me, I find it to be really crazy that people are investing a lot of emotionality into a test. I can't even imagine once this game is more fleshed out, which is going to make this game even more insane, even more fun to play, how tensions are going to get heightened then. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, are you looking to EVE Online at all? If you were, you know, watching the YouTube, so there's been, I mean, I think EVE Online's a really good benchmark for what we're talking about. I mean, there's been wars in EVE that, you know, cost over $70,000 in USD value. Like, if you were gonna convert the currency, right? You know, it gets personal. It gets really personal. There's backstabbing. There's all sorts of things that are going to go down. This game is going to get emotional. People got to be ready for that. I mean, and people got to know coming into Ashes, this is the environment. It's going to be very Game of Thrones-esque. Like,
that's what I've been saying.
It's kind of how it plays out.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I love that kind of game. So I love that kind of gameplay. I love that style of gaming. If people don't necessarily, I think actually Ashes does a good job of balancing it. Even now, like, you're talking about this guy flagged up on you, he hits you, he takes a note. Okay, you walk away. You know, as a casual player can just walk away. Is he going to corrupt on you? Probably not. I actually think the corruption system is really well done at the moment. I know Steven was talking about even, like, you know, bringing it down a bit. I actually don't think that's you know, I don't think they should bring it down. I think it should be as harsh as it is, because it will keep the casual players, you know, doing their thing. Because we have ways to do wars. We have ways to interact with each other on the hardcore guilds. I think the casual players, if they want to stay out of it, they should be able to stay out of it. And that's different from other, you know, PvX games, where I think this one does a pretty good job with the corruption system. But yeah, it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna be Game of Thrones. It's how the game is.
So how do you feel about mass PvP in general, like when it comes to the war decking? I know I talked to Tanner about this too. I'm just curious, because I think, I mean, especially as a guild member, I think it's a little much. And how quick and easy it could be. I feel like it should be a little bit more methodical, a little bit more hefty, like on the way, because I feel like war decking is just, oh, we're just gonna war deck you, and it's just like this super easy thing to do. So I'm just curious, from your point of view, like how do you view war decking? Do you like that kind of a system, and what kind of changes if you needed to make a change to that system, what would you do?
First change would be right now you have to war deck to PvP at world bosses. I think that if a world boss spawns anywhere within 100 yards, you should be automatically flagged, like a PvP zone. Does that make sense?
Wow. Okay.
I think that because you require people, I think a world boss, if you're getting involved with the world boss, you should have to PvP for it, in my opinion. I think that's the kind of content that, I think a lot of people are looking for in Ashes. I think having to war deck at a world boss doesn't really make sense. I think war decks are very weird right now. I actually don't understand what they're doing, because you have these war decks you can buy from the vendor at the mayoral station for 4 gold and like 4 gold and a half. It's like 4 gold, 50 silver. But then you can craft a war deck at a scribe for 30 gold, and they don't operate differently at all. I understand like the lumberjack and the fishing wars they have.
Yeah.
They want to use those like where it's like, okay, so if I declare a war on you with a lumberjack war, it'll put a little circle on the map where you can cut wood down, and then we can also kill each other. But right now how it operates is if I declare a lumberjack war on you, I can kill you and your guild anywhere I want. And people are obviously going to use that because, like we talked about before, the meta. Why would you pay 30 gold for a war when one works for 4 gold and 50 silver?
Exactly.
The fact that I can just war, like I can tell you right now, this hasn't even become meta yet, but this will become meta. If I see you, I don't want to say this on stream, but I will. I don't care. If I see you at a really rare spawn of something, right? And we know that rare spawn is going to be worth like 20 gold. Why wouldn't I just deck a war on you and take it from you? I could literally sit there, declare a war on you in a guild, and then take the item that you just farmed. There's just so many ways to abuse that and to use that in different ways that I don't think should be existing. I think those war decks should be removed right away. I think they should remove the 4 gold war decks, and they can reduce the actual war decks and scribes. Or they should make, realistically, the only time there is to declare a war is if you want to scrim against another guild, or you have like this weird rivalry, but there's really no value associated with it. It's just ego at the moment. The only thing that actually matters is objectives, so it's just world bosses. So they could completely remove war decks and just have PvP be at world bosses, and it'd be the same thing to me.
So what if they changed the actual war deck to own, like, because you basically put like a fishing war deck or a lumberjacking war deck, and one can actually be in Winstead. We actually had a lumberjacking where it was like it covered all of Winstead.
But it's currently broken. That doesn't even keep it in the circle anymore. It's just everywhere.
Right. Like, how would you feel if you were only flagged if you were in the circle? So even if, like, let's say Polar did a war deck on Axiom, if I'm not in that circle and I see a Polar, like, let's say in Uela, but the circle is in Winstead, like, we're just still green, like we would have to go to the actual circle to do the thing.
It could be interesting. I just think there's no real value to it. Obviously, there were rewards for war decks, and there's no rewards any further. I don't think
it's just used as a very malicious thing right now.
Yeah,
the war deck.
I don't think wars are going to be so hard to balance, because I'll tell you why. Always a really good example of this. Wars were available early on in the server, and they gave you rewards. There was no way that we could know that there was a cooldown associated with wars at all. Supposedly, there's still no cooldown, so I don't even know what that post is even about. We used wars after hitting like level 20 or whatever. We're like, hey, listen, we're like the highest levels in the server. Let's PvP everyone. This will be really fun. So we bought wars, and they gave you a small amount of gold and experience, whatever. And we're like, hey, this is pretty cool. We can declare war, and we get like 7% of a level. And it was like, hey, I want to take a break from grinding. I've been doing this now for 50 hours straight. Let's do some wars. We'll have some fun. We have the levels anyway. Let's throw our weight around a bit, right? And that's really fun for us. Not so much fun for everyone else we were war decking on. And we never like threw wars or did fake wars, because we could just war whoever, and no one could really fight us. We're just too high level. That probably isn't good to have in the game. There probably shouldn't be incentive for a big guild like us to war deck a smaller guild, or war deck any other guild realistically, purely because we know we can beat them. I think when it comes to the warring stuff, there needs to be probably some like consent involved or something, because I just think it is just malicious. Like, and I'm not afraid to say that. Like, if you're decking a war on someone else, it's purely over ego, or you want to grief them, or whatever it may be. I just think how it works right now is totally not the way it's going to work in the future. It's just not tuned correctly.
I mean, my whole thing is that, like, I think war, if you're going to declare war on something, it should feel meaningful. And right now, there's no meaning to it. So it's like, I sort of agree with you. I think like why have it if it's just being used in a very malicious way, especially if a large guild can just war deck on a very small guild that they can just pick on. And at the end of the day, like we want people to play Ashes of Creation. The last thing I want is hardcore guilds or even a hardcore person to like not brush off, but to like pressure these casuals to just not play. Like, oh, I love Ashes of Creation, but I can't play that game. It's too toxic. You know what I mean? Like there has to be sort of a fine line with the PvP. And I understand there's PvP players that are playing Ashes that want to PvP. I get that. And Steven has always touted this game as PvX, but it is not a solely a PvP game. You know, Steven has always touted PvX because there has to be like a kind of balancing with it. Right. So if you want to play a full blown PvP game, there's Albion, there's other PvP games. But I think a lot of hardcore players think that Ashes is just a PvP game, and it's not. And just like in Eve, you can't operate just solely on, swinging your dick around all the time.
No, you can't.
Because you're going to be demolished. Like everybody's going to turn on you on the server. You're literally going to be the target like constantly. And again, like, I'm sure you experience this in P1, but think about this on a larger scale when more systems in Ashes are more fleshed out. Think about when we have more biomes, more unique resources. Like, I think some of these systems or some of the player behavior is going to get worse. I think the better the game starts end up being, the worse player behavior is going to be, because now there's more at stake. There's more things to do. You know what I mean? So it's, I just don't want, especially in this testing phase, like to make players just not play. And yeah, and I think the war decking is an issue with that.
Yeah, I can even talk on that. I mean, we did the war deck thing for legitimately, it was like 12 hours that we were just war decking everyone, and we haven't done that really since. The only time we war deck now is at this point is if we're going against like Dopamine, or like, someone kills our caravan, we'll war deck them to be like, hey, don't do this again, or we're just going to camp you. Or it's like we're at a world boss or something against Nova. Our war decks are very few. I hate war decking unless it's for an objective. Personally, I think it's just a waste of time. But from literally that one day of war decking the server, I still get DMs and people at me saying I made their friends quit the game or blah, blah, blah. Like, we're talking like 12 hours on like of PvPing the server. And I have people who were like generally like actually hurt over it. And I feel badly. I actually unironically feel badly for them. And I don't know if I was actually the sole reason for them to quit, but people will at me and say that, like, that's not what we want to do. We were just having fun PvPing on the server. And I think that, yeah, looking back at it now, like, I can see why, this system in itself is really, really flawed, like incredibly flawed. Right. And if we wanted to, I mean, I could collect gold for my guild and I could deck wars all day, every day on certain guilds, and I could destroy guilds and make people quit the game. We're not doing that, but there's nothing stopping people from doing that in the game right now. Right. Like, and I believe me, when bad actors actually come into the game, they're going to do that. Like, there are people who love griefing. Like, look at World of Warcraft. I mean,
absolutely.
Have you ever tried to get world buffs with a priest sitting on a flight path who's just dispelling you? I don't know if you play Classic, no. But there are people who live for that.
Oh yeah,
their entire life is sitting there griefing. It's like people who sit on Tarkov on a spawn camp, or whatever it may be. People will do that. So they have to do something with the wars eventually, because any actual bad acting guild will take advantage of that, and they will just harass, right? Because some people enjoy that gameplay.
So when it comes to like mass PvP out in the flagged areas, right, like the desert, the tropics, have y'all been out there? Like,
oh yeah, we go there a ton.
Okay. So how do you feel about those lawless zones right now when it comes to like PvP skirms, or just in general PvP, whether it's in mass, whether it's more calculated and small? Do you have any feedback when it comes to the lawless zones, or like how you feel the PvP is out there, or is it rewarded? Is it not rewarded? Is it less fun than being in Riverlands? Like, just in general.
I really enjoy it. It's funny enough, there's all this drama about the desert. I leveled there mostly for like 1 to 12 on launch, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah, when there's a bunch of crystallides out there, like shardlings that were super like around like level 10, level 8. They were great to farm. They're super good XP. But I had a ton of fun PvPing in those sand dunes and everything else. It's funny people say it's like not really built out. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I like the desert area in general. I think that running caravans from like Merilith down is really fun. obviously the biggest issue, and it's probably everybody's going to say is the biggest issue, is a corruption baiting, where you can be in a lawless zone and then jump into a non-lawless zone pretty quickly, and that can be a huge issue. I like the idea of, like, that to me is a way better than wars, right? Like, you go to a zone, you know this is a PvP zone, you know what you're getting into, you know the risk. That to me is a much better system than the war deck system, for sure. So yeah, when it comes to those zones, I love them. We were scrimming out there the other day with Barcode and Dopamine, like 2 days ago, doing this big like 30v30. I think it's a lot of fun. I'd love to see POIs out there. I'd love to see it built out, which I think is coming, Steven said. There's a world boss out there, that big scorpion. I don't know if you've seen it. Oh, yeah. Hopefully that's coming soon. I'd like to see that.
It's level 50 right now, isn't it? It's in the game, but it's level 50, right?
Yeah, he's level 50. Yeah. And you can't get loot off of him, even if you could bring 1,000 people out there. You have to be within 10 levels or whatever to get loot. So hopefully they drop his level and they make him part of the game. That'd be really cool.
Right.
Because there's no real reason to go over into the desert right now. So it would be interesting more to see, other than caravanning. It'd be interesting to see them like really, develop that zone more. I'd like to see the PvP zones widen. I think they're a bit small. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I'd like to see more lawless zones. That'd be fun.
The idea of lawless zones is kind of interesting. I think depending on how a certain biome can be constructed, whether, I don't know if it's like it could be a mare thing or whatever, or even if there was a part of an area, like imagine if, because I think in the future, lawless zones weren't technically supposed to be a thing. That was something that Steven just kind of put in, just kind of just make PvP happen a little bit more easy. But I kind of like the idea of a mayor and the mayor's citizens declaring a certain like region. Like imagine if being in Marilith, like, so there's like, those lines on the map that indicates all of Marilith, like the region that indicates Marilith. Imagine if like as a mayor you can make that a lawless zone. Like, so
that'd be awesome.
So it's like our citizens and everybody that are here, like, we want this particular area to be a lawless zone. You might be a little bit more hesitant to go towards that area, whether it's a certain POI, whether it's a certain thing. I'm not saying that it'd be a great idea, but I think it'd be interesting for the future of the game to see if that would be a thing that people would like or not like. You know what I mean? Like, because I think having like random battlegrounds, or even just something that encourages to the PvP players, because I think if the PvP players are distracted doing PvP things, the PvE players can actually get away with shit. You know what I'm trying to say?
Totally agree. Yeah. Yes.
That's what I sort of want. Like, because I think when you let PvPers meander and just exist, and there isn't really anything for them to do, that's when they go and knock off caravans. That's when they go, and because there's nothing really incentivizing them. There's nothing really them going out and doing the PvP stuff, right? And so if you're a PvEer, you're going to feel more of the frack, the friction, I should say. And I think that's kind of what I want. I want just PvPers to feel like they have a lot of shit to do. And I think eventually, once we have more systems in the game, we have Naval coming, hopefully sometime in P3. I just hope there's a lot of avenues for a PvPer to log in and be like, oh, I want to do this PvP thing today. Because as long as you can keep PvPers distracted, the PvEers can do the PvE things and not be, again, not saying it's going to be like PvEers are going to be completely off limits, but it's just, you're going to find it more rare that PvEers are going to be griefed because the PvPers are out doing the PvP shit.
Yeah, I think when they add in dueling and then eventually arena, like, I think this game, the people will be absolutely busy with that. I love the combat in this game. I think most people do. I think PvPers, once they do have more to sink their teeth into, like you said, it'll fix itself in a lot of ways. I think people will generally, it's exciting right now. People get into a game and they're like, I can kill this guy's caravan. Heck yeah, I'm going to do that, or, whatever the situation may be. That's going to get, boring a little bit. And it's also less efficient than running your own caravan. So people will chill out on that. They'll fall into the meta like most games. But you'll have people who like to grief, like to PvP, and you'll have those engagements still, and you'll have those fun moments. But I just think as the game develops, less of that, like, I gotta kill everything, that'll fade, right? And people will just want to, like, okay, I want to make my character's gear, I want to start crafting, I want to get more powerful, I want to do this dungeon or this raid or get this item, and I want to, they want to build their character in an MMO. And if they don't, and all they do is PvP all day, they're eventually going to fall behind. Because you can go gank a caravan with 5 people, like me and 4 people can go gank a caravan, we can take their stuff, we can turn it in, we can split their 20 gold, or we can each run a caravan for 20 gold. right? Like
Right.
the efficiency itself is going to stop people from doing the PvP stuff as much, unless you have a grudge. Like when we fought Dopamine today, we killed their caravans. We didn't even try to loot their crates. We instantly crowbarred them and left right after we killed them. That was kind of just like it's a rivalry thing, so that makes sense. But for most people, I think the pirating stuff will calm down and will be, just a few unique people who just enjoy that style of gameplay, which makes it fun for everyone else. The risk makes it fun.
Right. No, 100%. Is there any, because we're almost approaching an hour already, is there any other,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I know it's crazy, right? Like we just
I feel like
we're talking like 20 minutes. Is there anything else as far as like pain points that people have brought to you as far as like feedback for the game? It could be like anything in general. The one thing I really appreciate is Intrepid really does listen to feedback and stuff like that, and I'm very fortunate to have sometimes developers watch my streams or watch my content and stuff like that. So I always try to make sure that whenever I'm talking to someone that they at least give their impressions or their feedback towards certain things that they're very passionate about. So I'm just going to kind of give you the floor a little bit to see or to say like what kind of feedback you'd want to leave about the game in general.
First thing I'll say, I have 3 things I'll go over. Number 1 for me is going to be how leveling works currently in the game. I like grinding. I enjoy how grinding works. I enjoy to me, it's like, hey, we go to the spot, we know it's high XP, we go with our 8-man or whatever, we grind that spot, we fight other people for that spot. That to me is really, really fun. A lot of other people want to log into the game and be able to do questing, solo play, and work their way up. Right now, if you level in an 8-man or a group and you do it in an efficiency route, you can get to level 25 in like 25 to 30 hours played. For a solo leveler, that's looking like 150 hours played. That needs to be brought in. I think solo gameplay should probably be about 60, 70 hours to 25. It's way too long right now. People need to be able to log into this game and level to 25 solo. There needs to be more optimized questing or just more optimized solo play. I love the group stuff, don't get me wrong, but there needs to be a mix. Another thing I would say with the leveling process, I think that the actual PvP while leveling, there needs to be some way to figure that out. There needs to be some incentive, because like the mob training, the griefing, it's so boring, to be honest. Like we just re-leveled and people try to mob drag onto us constantly through the leveling process, and I was like, geez, now I know how these people feel, these casuals leveling right now. It wasn't a huge issue for us because we know how to deal with it, but if you're a new player, that's gonna be miserable. When you die, you lose your XP, really bad for the game. Another thing is, a big way to grief people is, hey, I see you doing a pack with your 8-man. You just pulled the pack. I'm gonna mez your healer. I'm gonna sleep your your bard. I'm gonna hit your tank with wound stacks. Guys, wiped your group. That's not really good PvP. I'm just kind of griefing you. I guess what you could do is turn around and flag up at me and fight me for the spot, because you don't actually get corruption. If I hit you, if I bring a tank to 10% health and the mob kills him, I don't get corrupted or anything. But he's still dead. His group is completely griefed. That in itself is a bit of a problem. That's my first pain point, is leveling. I don't have the idea for it, but there needs to be better solo play. There needs to be better way to PvP between groups while leveling. There needs to be more grind spots, in my opinion. The leveling process just needs to be a bit more fleshed out, which will take time, and they're probably already working on that.
Yeah,
that's big. The number 2 thing, wow, I really wish Intrepid would really communicate more with the community. And I made a post today in the Ash Discord that Steven replied to, and he said they're already working on this. I'm going to bring it up, but he already mentioned that he's working on this. We talked about the exploiting and people feeling behind and not knowing exactly what they can and can't do, and people don't want to feel behind. Let's get a lot of communication out. If there's an issue and people are complaining in Discord, put out a public service announcement. Let's get a PSA out. Hey, by the way, XYZ thing we're not okay with. By the way, this thing we are okay with. Get specific with it. Communicate with us often. Like, everyone's watching the Discord. People are communicating within their guilds and stuff. More communication on what's okay and what's not. We need more communication. And then what goes with that is less witch hunting. Like, everyone claiming that everyone's an exploiter is, again, very boring. I want the community to get to a point where people are just like, hey, we respect this guild because they're playing well. Not, hey, this guild beat me, so they must be duping or some stupid shit. Like, that needs. I wish that stigma would change, because this is the only time I've ever seen that in an MMO community like this, where everyone's accusing everyone of exploiting. And that's probably because we're in an alpha and there's just more general bugs and things like that. I would like to see that change, but that's going to happen over time. And then the third thing, you want to go first?
Well, I just wanted to say with the whole Steven thing real quick. So, fuck, I lost my train of mind. Go ahead. I'll probably think of it later.
Okay. The third thing I would say is, when we do have PvP and the war deck stuff and all that kind of stuff, I would say I'm not even a fan of the war decks. Get rid of them till you fix them, in my personal opinion. But just make it so that, you know, if a world boss spawns, that area is just a PvP zone. That's the only thing I would care about. I think there's a lot of issues with healers being out of group, per se. There's a lot of issues with corruption stuff, with, like, you know, the PvP zones and everything. Let's get with the PvP guilds, talk to them, communicate with them, and try to get those issues fixed more quickly, because I think it's very unfun for, like, you know, if someone's killing a caravan, or like you said, with like attacking a caravan, right? Like, I can go attack a caravan with me and 3 other DPS, and my clerics can just not hit attacker or defender, and the actual defender of the caravan can do nothing. Like, they're sitting there, they're PvPing me, and I just have clerics out of group who are just healing our group. Like, that's a meta right now on the server for people to do.
Absolutely.
I think it's really bad gameplay, in my opinion. It's not good.
Would you consider that an exploit, or would you what would you consider that to be?
No, I would say that people are gonna play the meta. That's just how it works. Like, okay, it's like the whole thing with the tank exploit. I don't know if you know, like, there were guilds specifically doing that. Yeah, we didn't really do that at all. We actually did not really. We didn't do that literally at all. Other guilds did that. Did I go around screaming their exploiters? No, it's just Intrepid needs to fix the problem. I reported the bug. That's an Intrepid issue. Same thing with the healing out of group. Intrepid needs to fix the issue. Like, calling other people exploiters and stuff is just, what are you doing? You know, it's one of those things too, where everyone's calling everyone exploiters and everyone's doing it anyway. So it's just like, report the bug, help Intrepid fix it, and let's just move on. Like, I just think that needs to be the main goal in everyone's head. Is like, I understand, like, it feels badly when people are doing these things, but people are just going to play the meta. It's just human nature. Well, it's like that in any game.
When you say play the meta, to some people they're saying to play the exploit, because playing the exploit is the meta.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what the problem is for a lot of people, is the fact that people are choosing to break, you know, the quote unquote rules, because we don't know what the rules are, but we can clearly see this is game breaking behavior. But since, again, it's like the crocodile thing, right? Everybody's doing it, so they're going to ban everybody with the crocodile. You know what I mean? So it's like, without the line being delineated, as a hardcore player, you're just going to do it until someone tells you don't. And this is why,
exactly, like,
again, it's like, I still get mad at players, though. Do not get me wrong. However, because to me, at the end of the day, we know, like, you know, if like I said, if you're doing the invincibility shit, you know what you're doing is wrong, right? You're an adult. I mean, the majority, like, when I look at my YouTube analytics, the majority of people that watch my content is 35 and older. Like, we're an aging demographic of MMO players, right? So we're not like, you know, teensters that are like 13 playing Halo anymore, right? So I get it, you know, but even though you're in a hardcore guild, you find the exploit, you know what it is, and then you just don't do it. But I also understand the other side of it is, like, if you want to stay competitive and everyone is doing it, right? Like, if you know, like, if people say, oh, you're doing the cleric thing, that's an exploit, right? To some person's mind, it's like, well, if I don't do it, I'm at a massive disadvantage with my caravans, and we're never going to get a caravan to another point because every other hardcore guild is doing it.
Yeah, I think a good example of this was in P1 with how people could instantly unstuck. I don't know if that was a thing on Vera.
Oh, yeah. It was,
well, you could just instantly unstuck, right? Like, that's clearly not intended, right? Like, you're not supposed to be in the middle. Do
you remember the alt F4?
Yeah, clearly not intended, right? Like, these things are obviously not intended, but people did them anyway. Now, if Steven wants to solve these problems, or Intrepid in general, make a post, say, hey, listen, we know people are doing this. All good. We didn't say anything. We're saying now don't do it anymore. And if you continue to do it, we want to see reports. We're in the process of fixing it. Yeah, we're in the process of fixing it. But yeah, until then, don't do it. And everyone stop doing it. That's all it takes, literally, is a PSA of, hey, we know this is happening. Don't do it. If we get reports of you doing it, we're going to take action. But we're saying now, don't do it. Cool. Everyone stop. That's all. That's all they need to do. Right. And I think you could stop stuff like healing out of groups instantly. I can tell you right now, if that was the case, people would act way differently. And it goes for everything, not just any type of exploit. If Intrepid takes a stance where they communicate, hey, you know, don't do it, it'll change everything.
I think there's just also some, because remember you talked about the shitters. I think there's some people, in guilds that are, I've heard of people that already have secondary accounts because they're like, oh, if they fucking ban my first account, I got another one, so it doesn't really matter to me, right? And I think it's those kind of people that people are like really upset about, and it's hard to police that. And I understand
that's so rare though, that people are just going to be willing to throw $100 accounts away.
Yeah,
I $200, $300 accounts.
Totally get that, and that's why I hope that fear is instilled in people, especially like if you want to be competitive and you want to actually play this game and see it through the launch, like why do stupid shit and risk your account to not play, right? Like it's to me it's really dumb. It's all dumb, but I get it, because it's, as MMO players, like we are truly excited for this MMO. Like I am, a lot of people are. And I think there's a lot of passion that's been built behind this because we've waited for so long. Like, I don't know, like when did you get into the Ashes community? Because it's like, for me, I've been waiting for almost 5 years. There's been people that have been waiting almost 8 years. So I'm curious, like, when did you find out about Ashes?
So I saw the launch trailer, I think like, I don't know, 7 years ago. And I was like, okay, that looks cool. Kind of forgot about it. About a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, my buddy was like, hey, they're going to stop selling these keys. This is before they re-release the keys. He's like, you should get in on this. This game looks really cool. And I was like, okay, I'll look into it. And then I saw the video where they did the caravan on the river. I don't know if you remember that video where Steven has all the rangers. He's like, go stealth and we'll snipe them and then we'll fight in the caravan. That to me was like, this looks really fun. And that's the same day I bought the key. So that's when I started getting really like into it. But not really though, because at the same time I was running an NA first guild on WoW during the whole time. So like we were running, I was super busy with that. So it kind of was in the back of my head. And then as it was coming up, it kind of lined up. We did Cataclysm tier 11. We got NA first for that, world third. And then after that, the guild was kind of like, Cataclysm's fun, kind of over the rating scene. And Ashes was coming up and I was like, okay, let's give this a try. And I've just been in love, absolutely in love. This game is so much fun. Super enjoyable. Everything about it I am obsessed with, and so is my guild. We absolutely love the game, and
very different from WoW. Like completely
different. Yeah, completely different. Similar to classic WoW in some ways. It's basically classic WoW on steroids, in my opinion. It brings all the systems I want to see in classic WoW. They brought it to Ashes, and that was the crazy thing for us, was how surprising the combat was. The combat is so good in this game. I love the combat. I have a blast with it. Wanted to bring this up, by the way. Polar's hosting an AVA tournament on the 25th. So if anyone's interested in getting involved in an AVA tournament, you can sign up. Just reach out to me or somebody else. I'm Team Muggsy on Discord. You can reach out. But we are doing an AVA tournament. It should be really fun. I think 8v8 in this game is going to be fantastic. I think the arena play style is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I hosted the first one with Crix, and Only was the one organizing it. I think Crix is going to be hosting with Crix, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get involved too, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, Crix is doing it again, and the more the merrier. If you end up wanting to get involved, just let me know. I
mean, I felt like I was so bad. Like people were like, "Oh, Flat."
I thought you were fine. Yeah,
dude, I was. I mean, being a caster is a skill that I need to develop, because that was me. I was thrown in the deep end in that, and I've never done that in my life. And I even told him afterwards, I was like, "Bro, I'm so sorry." Like I felt like
I thought you did fine. I thought you did fine.
But I digress. Yeah. I mean, I hopefully my thing with flagging specific, I wanted to mention this earlier. This is the thing that I derailed on earlier. I want flagging to have a cooldown. Like not a cooldown, but like if you flag, you should flag immediately as a combatant. But when you want to unflag, that should take like 5 minutes. Like now your timer starts at the end of 5 minutes, you will be unflagged, because this whole unflagging really quick, and now you're either you died or the other person now is corrupted because you alt F forward. Like, and this also causes another thing too. If you as a group are like, that's our grind spot, and you purposefully flag, and now you let's say you won, you got your grind spot. Well, now if you want to unflag, now there's 5 minutes, meaning that gives that other group time to run.
Make it 10 minutes.
Yeah, like I mean, we can agree whatever time. But I just think there needs to be something to cause players to not just willy-nilly go in and out. And I think that's yes, you need to commit. And if you're going to commit, at least commit for a while, like, and again, flagging should be a choice. And I think it's really aggravating for players to, like, as soon as you go back, they're all green, and you're like, What the like? It's like you
make
can't
them
even
flag
have
until they go to a neutral city. You flag up you flag up. You don't unflag until you go to a neutral city.
I mean,
Almost like turning in a caravan. You know,
like,
you get to near neutral city and then he unflags you.
I just think it would just be cleaner just to have a cooldown. Like as soon as you want to unflag, make it a 5 or 10 minute cooldown. We can just, and we'll adjust it as it goes. But I don't like the current flagging as it is, especially as combatant. And there's just so much like griefing, and there's even the stuff too in the lawless zones. Like it's like that's why whenever Thor was asking Steven about like potentially adding like a blinking like, hey, the flag is going to drop, like he's going to go green like very soon, stop attacking, like I think is a good thing. But I also feel like too, if you're engaging in PvP and you purposely like if you're engaging currently in PvP, you cannot you cannot toggle the cooldown, right? Like if you're in combat, you cannot toggle the cooldown, and if you're being attacked, you cannot untoggle the cooldown. Like, I mean, that's my thing. And again, maybe all those kinks have to be addressed and stuff like that. But I think it's just, there's a huge issue right now in these willy-nilly like skirms that happen like very one time. And then there can't be any retort unless I want to go corrupted, which is stupid. So that's kind of like my beef with the flagging system. Anything else? I mean, I thought that was actually some pretty good points that you left.
The only thing I'll say is, you know, if you're looking for a guild in Ashes of Creation and you're interested in a hardcore guild with a huge history of, you know, North American first and, you know, top world rankings and multiple MMOs and multiple versions of MMOs, reach out to, you know, to Polar. You can apply to Polar at discord.gg/Polar Guild. We have a really rich, you know, history and a huge family. And if you're looking for that really, really time consuming, grindy, you know, PvP filled, enjoyable atmosphere, Polar's that. So that's pretty much it. And I really enjoyed the interview with you, Vlad. I appreciate it. Appreciate you talking to me, and, you know, sign up for the APA tournament if you're interested. If you're listening, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. I mean, my whole thing is that like, I just think if you want to build a reputation on the server, be consistent. And I think, especially because I know you were talking earlier that you can't like monitor like your people, and I get that, I do. But if you want to be a respected guild, you know, because again, there's a lot of PvP guilds out there that are respected, right? There's like an urn to be kept. There has to be an etiquette from your players, right? And if there's going to be like these, you know, toxic people that, you know, again, talking shit is one thing, right? But it's like you GG, you did your skirm, it's over. There's no more shit talk after that. All I'm saying is like, if you want to be respected, you gotta earn it, you know, and there has to be certain ways that are earned, right? So that's kind of like all I'm saying with that.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, if anyone has a bad, like, I think there's, you know, clearly some people think Polar is a bad rep out there. We're gonna fit into this community. You know, we're gonna get involved with everyone. People will see, you know, we're generally good people, and everyone will come to that conclusion. I think, you know, relatively, you know. I
think there's, again, it's like what I was telling Tanner. I think the people I've talked to you, I've talked to Tanner. You seem like good people. You know what I mean? But again, it's like I think anybody can put a face on for an hour. Like I don't truly know you, right? You know, but I hope that you're being genuine. I hope that you want this sort of respect, because especially if you want this to be a game you can play for 10 or 15 years, the last thing you want is to have this kind of, especially in an alpha, to start getting, you know, kind of spun out of control of like disrespect and constant. And we are going to have drama. Drama's going to happen for sure. But there's also a level of etiquette that can be taken into place that's just like, hey, you know, don't fucking do that, man. Like, why did you do that? You know, it's like, because you're going to have to claim accountability for your members, like at the end of the day. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said yourself early on in the interview, you've never had a personally bad experience with Polar. It's kind of just been some hearsay. I think that's what you said. I'm correct.
Yeah, I mean, for me, yeah. Like, I mean, because I haven't really, since I'm a streamer and stuff like that, I haven't really done a lot with Axiom. Like I gather for them, I give it to my quartermasters, but really, like when it comes to the PvP scrims, because I'm not level 25 either, right? I've been playing very casually in phase 2 because I went hardcore in phase 1, and I'm like, I don't want to burn out. And I'm actually having a shit ton of fun doing treasure hunting and just going out and doing stuff or whatever. And this is what I told Tanner. So if you see a Vladis caravan, I am probably running it by myself. Please do not kill me. Okay. Like,
right, but heard that, Polar members. You see Vlad out there, help him home. Guide him home. Click defender. Bring Vlad home. That's the goal. Bringing Vlad home.
like I said, I mean, I my whole thing is like as a content creator for this game, like I want to be respected, and you know, there's gonna be certain things that I have to do, and you know, right now there's like this whole thing with pirate software and the whole drama that he's gotten himself into.
Oh yeah.
And I think ultimately, like, people just wanted him to not be a little egocentric, you know, and I get that, you know, and to me, it's like, I always say, like,
take some responsibility.
That's why I don't like meeting my heroes. Like, I don't like meeting people that I find really amazing. Like, I'm a huge Batman fan. Like, dude, I'm in love with Batman.
Okay.
Ben Affleck, I think he's one of the best Batmans ever. I think he's better than Michael Keaton. He is the pinnacle Batman. Ben Affleck is a shit person. He is a shit person. Dude, the amount of times I've heard of Reddits of people meeting Ben Affleck has been some of the worst experiences. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, but I love him as Batman. I think he's fucking great. You know what I mean? It's like, even myself, you know what I mean? That's like super emotional and fairly hardly invested in Batman. I would never want to meet Ben Affleck ever because it's like, I like you. I like your acting. I love how you were in this movie, but outside of that shit, I just, you know, like I can't support you as a person, you know. And there's plenty of people like that. There's plenty of celebrities. There's plenty of like
for sure
bands and shit like that. So it's like, I get, my whole thing is just, you know, you got to be consistent. That's my thing. Like, and I think Thor has been consistent. I think that's why a lot of people don't like him because, you know, the whole ego with him. There's clips of him even in the past of double downing on certain positions.
He's worked at Blizzard for 7 years. So.
Dude, did you not know he worked at Blizzard for 7 years? So I mean, and I get it. You know, it's like, to me, I don't have any skin in the game either because it's like, I don't watch him enough to really have an opinion about it. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, like, it's like, you can find a clip of him doing this, a clip of him doing that. It's like, okay, if that's consistently how he is, then okay, like, I'm not going to really watch him. I'm not going to care about it. Like, it's just in one and out the other. I think there's also people, and this is where I think it's going to be really bad in Ashes, because people love to stew in the drama. They love to bring it up. They love to have people riled about it to get the comments going or to get the emotionality going and flowing. And I think that in Ashes is going to get even worse. Like, as the game progresses, it's going to get terrible.
I've told people this, like, we're a guild from WoW. There are going to be insanely good guilds and, you know, flourish communities that come over to Ashes. Because I'm telling you right now, I give it 3 months till people realize how good of a game Ashes is already, and you're going to see a swarm of players coming over from the WoW communities. I mean,
absolutely,
there are millions of people who love MMOs that are looking for a game like Ashes, but they don't know about it yet because there's just been no real push, at least in advertising Ashes. People don't really understand it. They think it's an alpha. They don't really understand how full the game is already. I mean, you see it with Summit, right? Like, Summit just started playing.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, wow, this is actually really fun. I really enjoy this. And he's just leveling.
Yeah.
Wait till he gets to do some, you know, PvP and stuff. He's gonna be all over this. And I'm telling you, a lot of people are gonna follow. You're gonna see a lot of big communities. People gotta be ready for that though. Like like, you know, Polar's one community that came over. There's a lot like us. They're gonna come over and they're just as hardcore, and they're gonna be, you know, just as competitive. Like, I understand that we're a competitive guild coming over, and that's uncomfortable for some people because, you know, competition makes people uncomfortable. But, you know, competition breeds, you know, better guilds, better groups, better organizations. So people should take it as, you know, take it as a challenge. Like, that's my biggest thing to people is, don't take it so personally. Take it as a challenge. Enjoy the challenge. You know, that's how we see our rivalries. That's how we see when we play against Nova. You know, I think right now probably the best guild that we face against right now is probably Nova. They're just the most absolutely grindy, hardcore players. They really put in a lot of effort. You know, when we play against them, Lineker loves to shit talk. And he's a GM of Nova.
Yeah,
and he loves to shit talk.
I've talked to Lineker. Like,
but I don't take it personally. I mean, the guy's passionate. I like it. You know, we see the challenge. Like, I think they're a good guild. I like PvPing against them. I enjoy it. That's how we like to PvP. We like to get down and dirty. We like, you know, if you want to talk a little shit, let's talk some shit. It's just a banter. It is what it is. Don't take it personally. It's fun. It's what makes the game fun, right? And that's the people got to learn that coming to Ashes. Like, you're gonna lose. Get over it. You know, it's going to happen. You're in a PvP game. You know, people die. You're going to die. Your character's going to die. You're going to lose some loot. Sometimes you're going to lose some caravans. That's part of the game. That's why you enjoy it. When you really think about it deep down, you like the rush of going out with your caravan. You like the rush of going out with your loot. You like that rush. That's why you play this game. That's why it's addicting.
Just the rush of me carrying, like, I stream treasure hunts And there's sometimes I have shit that I'm like, bro, someone can just come out and kill me right now. And
you're carrying 40 willow on you or something crazy.
I mean, dude, I get that tickle in my ball sack. Like whenever I have like an epic or a legendary material on me, that's like more than 2. I'm just like, I need to head to my.
You're sweating.
Yeah, I need to head to my notes like now. You know what I mean? It's just, It's and I love that because I haven't had an MMO do that to me since playing Arena in WoW. Like Arena in WoW is so good. Like I remember it's very exhilarating. The doors open. I remember, and there's no one there. I'm like, fuck, 2 rogues or a feral druid and a rogue.
Ooh, that's a good comparison. The double rogue when you're just standing there, like,
and nothing
get a flare
happens.
down or do something.
Yes, it's and then it's like I've had some really emotional and just like very intense PvP battles in Arena, and I think that's the only adrenaline rush I've ever really gotten in WoW. Because when I do raids or when I do like bosses and stuff like that, it's so programmable, it's so like rudimentary. It's like I don't feel that at all. But in this game, just having materials in my bag and heading to my node, I feel that same feeling, and it is addicting. It's very, very addicting. Because again, it's like when you know you can lose something, there's an attachment there. And I think that attachment for us as gamers has been really lost. Like we don't feel the attachment that we used to in certain MMOs. You know, it's kind of sad because it's the state of the genre right now. The state of the genre is fucking terrible, dude. The fact that people have to go to Classic WoW, which is almost a 20-year-old MMO, to me is an issue. Because
it's a massive issue.
None of the new shit. Like look at New World. New World's trying to rebrand, put it on console and shit like that. Let's go look at what they're currently playing with. I think it's like still like what 5,000, 10,000 players. Like it's sad, dude. Lost Ark. I mean, all the Korean MMOs are just pay to win garbage. So it's like, okay, like you can play that, you know, but it's like now you're gonna have to get 7 currencies and go from this currency to that currency to like do all this. Like it's just dumb, like what MMOs have come out into. And I think Ash is being pure in a sense where Steven's very much against pay to win. He's very much against pay to convenience. It's like a grail, like the holy grail has been uncovered, and it's like, let's not taint this shit, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm in love with the game. I think, you know, I want to see it flourish. I want to see it grow. I want to see it be I think it's going to be the biggest MMO. I've told this to everyone. I've been shilling, you know, this game to everyone in my guild. You know, it's a hard sell to tell a hardcore WoW community that's #1 in North America to come over to a different game. It was a hard sell for me to pour people over here.
I get it.
I really had to sell it. And I, like I said, I think back to 2018, I'm playing on Elysium, or I'm playing in NOS. If you know anything about Classic WoW, these are all the early private servers. I'm playing on these private servers. I'm in Ungoro Crater. You know, I'm fighting for Devilsaur. You know, this is the feeling you got. And it just reminds me of that, but just on steroids. It's 10 times better. Like everything about this game I love. So yeah, I think that it has all the right stuff that's just going to bring everyone in. It has, you know, it's like, there's a reason why GTA RP is so big, right? People like like the dynamic of, you know, a growing universe of story, everything else. And that's what you're going to see on these servers in Ashes. You're going to see relationships developed. You're going to see friendships ruined or made, or you're going to see backstabbing. You're going to see all that good stuff that people really enjoy. It's going to be a soap opera. Truly a Game of Thrones, probably.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'm gonna probably end it here because I gotta do some stuff with the wife and stuff like that. The baby's been crazy and stuff like that. But Tim, I believe I have the discord.gg/polar guild, or is it polar
Guild? Yeah.
Okay, Polar Guild. Yeah, I think I have it in the description on the YouTube stuff. But is there any other place that people can find you, or is that where they send the application if they want to have any interest?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, tmugsy. You can find me at Polar Guild or tmugsy on Discord, whatever. Yeah, if you're interested in a hardcore guild, we like I said, massive culture, massive history of being successful. And if you're interested in getting involved with that, we plan on being the best Ashes guild in the world. You know, when this game launches, that's our goal. Whatever that looks like, PvP, PvE, we are, you know, we're gunning, we're growing. And if you've seen us on Resna, you've seen us here, we are just doubling in size consistently. We are really, really blowing up. So we're looking for players, we're looking for casuals, we're looking for hardcore players, we're looking for leaders. Anything you want to get involved with, we have probably. So send an app in, get to know us, and, you know, find out more.
Awesome. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on and hanging out with me and TM. Again, if you haven't seen my content, my name is Vladis. I do a podcast called the 1v1 podcast, where I bring on people from the Ashes community, GMs, officers, regular people. We talk Ashes here. That's all we really do. Most of my content is all specifically Ashes of Creation. So if you want to follow me here on Twitter, or not on Twitter, Jesus Christ, on Twitch, you can hit that heart button. Stay up to date anytime I go live. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. You can always subscribe to that as well. I go live both on Twitch and on YouTube simultaneously. So if you prefer YouTube, you'll be able to view me there. In the meantime, we're going to probably raid over to someone else. I don't know who is still streaming. Oh, okay, we got Roar's streaming, so we'll go and raid him, and we will see you guys on the next one. So take care, guys. Have a great one over that Roar. Tell him Vlad sent you.